Welcome to SML Total Access, where we break down news, predictions, and more in our Madden League. Now, let's get fired up for SML football.
Hello and welcome back to SML Total Access. I'm Primetime 000 with Dan and a new host. Drum roll, please. Matt, what's going on, brother?
Hey man, I'm happy to be here with a couple of SML legends, and I've got some small shoes to fill, physically and tiny, but some big show shoes to fill. So I hope I can live up to it.
Hey, we'll see. It's probably not that big of shoes, actually. Tiny's usually sleeping. So, hey guys, let's start off. We don't waste any time. Let's get to first down on SML Total Access, and it's a good one. It's playoff time. Who's in? Who's out? And will Faz make it even? That's the big topic that everybody's talking about. And Matt, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think the AFC is pretty cut and dry. I think 1 through 7. I think Meats gets in. I think I'm the odd man out, and then there's the 10 losses after me. As far as Faz goes, I do think he gets in. I said about the beginning of March that he would get in, and he does need 2 of 3 things to happen. I think the 2 things that happen is I think Prime you beat Future. I see that as a strong possibility the way you're playing, and I think Dump beats DW. I know he's resting Miles Sanders. He said 2 is a game time decision. I don't care about any of that. He wins the game regardless. So I think Faz gets in. He's going to beat Mike, and he gets in.
Dan?
Yeah, I think this is pretty wild when you think about Faz, just because 2 weeks ago he needed about 12 different things to go his way, and it's almost like this is destiny, which makes it scary when him getting into the playoffs. Because maybe he's a team of destiny. Who knows the way that this has gone. But, I think the wild card and the element we still have to play into here is, does Dump want Faz in there? So, is Dump thinking, okay, would I rather have DW in the playoffs that, not that they're going to be a first-round matchup, but somewhere down the line, Dump's thinking, hey, I want to get to the Super Bowl. Do I want to have to deal with Faz? Maybe he throws this game. So that's an element we got to put out there. I mean, that's a potential that could happen. I mean, he's got nothing to play for. DW wins, and if Doink wins, Faz is out. So keep an eye on that Eagles game, and it'll be interesting to see which way Dump goes with it.
Yeah, for me, I think Matt hit the nail on the head. The AFC, Meats is playing Coop. If Meats blows that game, then boy, oh boy, is that folding chair narrative going to come out once again. It's not even a narrative, it's just a fact. But so I think Meats does win that game, and I think he clinches a playoff spot, and Matt is the odd man out. In the NFC, again, the talk of the town is Faz, and that dude should honestly, if he makes the playoffs, he needs to play the Powerball. I mean, Doink kicks, guys losing 3 games in a row, 5 games in a row. I mean, it's all going his way, and honestly, when you look at the games, it's like, okay, I'm probably favored against Future, and more often than not, Dump's favored against Deathwish. I think that obviously Doink's going to beat Fins unless if he chokes. But yeah, the big question mark, the only 50-50 game is that Eagles-Washington football team game. That's going to be the game to watch because Colts are playing for number 1 seed, and I'm going to go all out against Future. So, man, that's going to be a game to watch, and it's going to be on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And I don't know what's going to happen. My gut tells me Faz is going to get in, but I think Dump might rest his starters and play this one safe because Deathwish already beat him earlier this year anyway with his starters. So there's something to note. Let's move on now. Second down. What is wrong with QP? QP seemed like very dynamic. I mean, even at the beginning of this season, and now he's kind of not as good or something. I don't know. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, so I believe it's 3 straight losses, right? Not 4.
3.
Maybe it's
yeah.
4.
Well,
it's
2.
Is it 4 because 2? 1 was a simulated game, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, losing 2 games in a row, no one's really going to say what's the big deal. But this guy, his last regular season playoff run, Super Bowl win, the beginning of this season, everyone was basically looking at him and saying, hey, you know what, QP, he's the top dog. He's got the best roster. He's playing the best. I think you at one point mentioned Prime the potential to win 3-4 Simbardis this cycle, and The SML is tough. I mean, it's not a league that you can just kind of sit back and kind of rest in your morals, and I think that's where he's at right now. I think he's got a little bit of comfortable and people figuring him out a little bit, and now, you know what? If I'm QP going into the playoffs, I think I even saw him in chat just kind of saying, "Hey, I'm going to let someone else get the AFC champ." Like, I think there's some real doubts going on in his mind, and when you start doubting yourself as a Madden player, man, you start pressing a little bit more. You start calling some different stuff. You're not as confident, and so I think there is. I think something is not quite right there, and I think QP's got to be a little bit worried heading into the AFC playoffs.
Yeah, I think something that stands out for me as someone who watches as many games as possible, and I tend to catch QPs because he's specific. His pass defense is really struggling. He's 27th in the league right now. You wouldn't expect that from a top player. But the thing with being that bad at your pass defense is it just makes your offense no room for mistakes. You've pretty much got to play perfect. And I don't care how good you are. Both of you guys know this. It's hard to play perfect all the time. And when you can't stop the other team, any mistake you make can just be compounded. So against Bomber, Weber 15 of 19, and Lamar Jackson threw 3 interceptions. You don't have any room when you can't stop anyone. Against ZZ, he did win this game, but ZZ 10 of 17, 202 yards. Now ZZ went a little crazy through 3 picks and QP won, but he only won by 10, and I think he was trailing at halftime. Joe Burrow 20 of 24 in the loss that he had against Monty. The Packers, Aaron Rodgers, 30 of 39. So I just think he needs to focus on getting that pass defense shored up. That will allow him to not have to press so much on offense. But I'm not freaking out. This is a guy that won a Simbardi with the Lions. He's got the ultimate weapon in Lamar Jackson. We saw him utilize that against ZZ. I think he had like 150 yards rushing on like 7 carries. So when it comes playoff time and he needs to go to the well, he's got the weapon. He's got Lamar Jackson. I think he's okay.
Yeah, I think a few things are happening, and one being, it's never easy to win a Simbardi, but it's a little different when you have that X mark on your back, and I think there's that, and also what he enjoyed post blip is the Ravens were just kind of already, ready to go and ready to rock. So those first 2 seasons, you're dealing with the Colts with Carson Wentz, and the Browns aren't fully developed yet. And, the Browns are obviously, they got Chubb, so maybe that's a bad example. But different teams aren't quite there. So it's easy to jump out to a good start. So now you have other teams in the AFC building up, and now he's got that X on his chest because he's won the Super Bowl. I think there's that. There is some complacency, and now there's, he's now lost to some big dogs. He's lost to me this season for the first time. He's lost to Bomber now, and he's trying to play it off like Joe Cool, like, I'm just gonna take it easy. But when you post messages like that, and he hasn't done anything like that, I think that shows it does show a sense of fear or maybe doubt, and he's trying to play it off. But there's definitely something mental going on with QP. And you can see it in the way he plays, and you can see it with how he is in chat right now. And now is a very bad time to be like that because we're right at the cusp of the playoffs. And I've got a bad feeling about the Ravens this season. Let's move on to third down. Who's going to go one and done this year? And I was just talking about maybe QP. Matt, are you going to take that shot against QP, or what are you thinking?
No, I'm not going to take the shot at QP. I'm still a believer. I'm in that camp. Actually, we have some breaking news because the Bengals score just came across the wire. That Monty lost to NYT, which probably bumps him down to 7 and puts Meats up to 6 if he beats Coop. Meats was my pick here. I don't see any universe where Meats beats Bomber in the first round, assuming that's the matchup, which right now it would be. So the Bengals and the Browns, I think Monty can win that game. If he plays defense with his eyes open, he can win that game. So I hate to take the easy road because it's staring me right in the face, but I got to pivot, and I got to go with Old Man Woods. He's sitting with QP, and I just don't see a universe where Woods overcomes even though he's struggling, he's going to want to, QP's going to want to bounce back. He's going to hear this show. He's going to want to make a statement. He's going to want to make a run. I'm going to go with Woods.
Nice. I like that pick. I'm going to NFC side, and NFC is kind of up in the air, so the matchups are going to be really hard to predict. We have no idea who's going to get in or not, but I'm gonna make the assumption that Doink Face is going to get in, and he's going to match up either against Paulie, Clink, or NYT. Those three are kind of set at their divisions. And I'm going Doink is one and done. He doesn't have Brady to rely on. His QB is gonna play good about 75% of the game, but the 25% where Doink needs him to make the throw, to not get the overthrow, not have the interception, it's gonna cost him. And Doink is gonna go one and done, and that Bucks team is just gonna keep getting older and older, and his window's gonna keep passing him by.
That's a good one. I'm looking at the AFC, and it's an interesting matchup. The number 2 seed and 7 seed, Bomber against Monty. And that game's more of a coin flip than what you would think, in my opinion. I don't think that's a runaway game for Bomber. I know he's kind of smacked Monty down, I think, both times they played this year. But something tells me that Monty's going to find a way to pull off an upset this year, and he's going to beat Bomber. He's going to go to Cleveland. He's been prepping for this game. He kind of knows what it takes to beat Bomber, and he's going to get the job done and upset Mad Bomber, who missed the playoffs last year. He's going to come in and get a win, and I think shock the SML. I think that'd be a big deal.
Oh, that'd be a huge deal if that would happen. I mean, that would almost be like Woods Bomber last cycle, but I don't see any way possible that Monty can win that game because he just can't play defense, and you've got to be able to play defense to win in the playoffs. Monty can't play defense. That's why Doink's user still holding him back. You got to play defense. There's no way Bomber loses to Monty.
There you go.
Yeah, and Bomber, that's a bold pick because Bomber has beat Monty by a combined score in their 2 games of 88-36. He scored 44 in both games. Monty scored 20 and 16. Now, obviously that doesn't matter. They're going to start 0-0, but Monty 31st in yards allowed, 32nd in passing yards, 21st in points allowed. His offense is really good, but that defense, especially against a great player, like I talked about with QP, if he makes a mistake, he's behind the 8 ball. He can't stop anyone. That's how he gets routed. So bold pick, Prime.
Yeah. I was going to go for the easy pick. It's like Meats and Doink Face, but why not go bold here? And I think Monty, if he can get a lead, Bomber's going to come out a little tight. We'll see what happens. Let's move on to number 4, fourth down here. And Dan, what's your biggest surprise this season?
Yeah, I got 2 of them real quick. My halfway through the season, my biggest surprise was the NFC East, and at one point I think we were looking at maybe 3, maybe even outside 4, playoff teams, and now they've all kind of fallen off the cliff here in the last few weeks, and so a little bit surprised there. But by far, the number one surprise to me is the fact that RD has not turned it around yet. I thought he needed maybe a half a season. He'd figure the game out. He'd get back to his roots. He'd be able to play some defense. But, I saw that game against you, Prime, that he played, kind of hyped, a little bit of a, hey, this is what we could have had pre-blip. And he just didn't even look competitive.
Yeah,
and it didn't even look close. The score could have been a lot worse than what it was. And this is a guy that's, was one-time winner, 2-time member, being in the Super Bowl last year. And,
Yep.
And now he just looks completely lost. Looks like kind of an average player. So I think my biggest surprise right now is RD.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed when that game happened. Actually, typically I'm the type of guy to rub it in and give you a hard time, but I just don't know if RD's going to turn around this cycle. Dan, did you have another one or no?
No, that was it.
Matt, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm not surprised by the NFC East. They played the AFC East and the NFC West, the 2 weakest divisions in the league, in my opinion. So their records are inflated. They will go back to normal next season. My biggest surprise, I actually have 2 of them as well, and one of them I have in common with Dan. My biggest surprise is Duck, Bean, whatever you want to call him. Double tank. I don't know if he's tanking. I've made a joke a lot just because I've played him multiple times and he is playing different this season than he ever has. He's got freight train. He knows how to use it. I don't know how you're 5-11 with Derrick Henry. So I'm a little shocked by that. That's 5-11. That 5-12, 6-11, whatever he ends up being. That's kind of where I think Bean is as a player. He's not a bad player, but I think that's just kind of where he is with the competitiveness of the SML. But he's got freight train, and that we saw him go to the 2 seed. He was the 2 seed 2 seasons ago and almost beat Prime. And then last season he gets in the playoffs. I don't understand it. I know our schedule is tougher, but I don't that big of a slide. I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. RD. When I watch RD, it's not the same RD I'm used to seeing. I know he was only here for like a couple weeks. I think I don't even think he was here for a month.
About 6 games.
Yeah, so I get coming into a new game, but guys like RD, guys like you, Dan, guys like you, Prime, the new game, I mean, yeah, maybe you need a couple of games to figure things out, but you get back into the rhythm. You guys are just naturally good. I think where RD is struggling is he's a safety user and always has been. I played with him for a long time. This game does not cater to using the safety. He's trying to switch onto the linebacker at times. It doesn't feel natural for him. I know if I went from linebacker to safety, I would even struggle even more. So I'm just surprised he hasn't turned it around as good as he is. I mean, I'm not expecting a Super Bowl run, but seeing him at 4-12 is a surprise.
Yeah, and yeah, it is a surprise. For me, I would say Graham's Once Upon a Time in the SML was a legit contender. About two, maybe three cycles ago now, he's really kind of fallen off the face of the earth in the league. Um, and I think sometimes some OGs like myself or some other guys, they look at Grams as somebody who can still be that guy, and at times he looks like it. But this season he started off 5-1, and he really, I mean, he looked really solid. Like he kind of got his mojo back. And going into the last two games of the season, he had Figs and Field, and I'm pretty sure win either or, and you make the playoffs.
Yep.
And he loses to Figs, and whether it was a front or not after the game, it was like, oh, I really, that one's not the one I needed. The Field one is the one I really need. Maybe he was trying to front it like he wasn't hurt about it, but lost in overtime. Then he plays Field, and the whole game he's like mentally, it looks like he's in chat, and he's not focused on the game really, and it's a big moment for him. First time he'd be in the playoffs, and I think two cycles maybe, or at least a cycle. And yeah, I was just surprised by how he handled that, and his game management, which used to be his strong suit, was handling just these. Maybe not the best. Well, he had a good user at one point, but not the best user, the best passer. But he would always do the right things, the right time, and win games, and that's even diminished. So I was just surprised by how he handled some things, and ultimately is out of the playoffs now.
Yeah, I think that can be one of the bigger stories here. Like, let's see how this plays out. If Faz makes the playoffs, I think the fact that Grams couldn't get one of those two wins, and if Faz makes a run in the Super Bowl, it's going to be one of those kind of stories that we tell a little bit. Yeah, I can't get into the psyche with Grams. I don't know where he's at. I don't know if he's frustrated with the game. He doesn't have enough time. I don't know if he just, is trying too hard to do something with the Cowboys because that's his team. But to have the playoffs right in front of you, and all you got to do is beat Fig and Fields, two guys that for the most part of this cycle have been in the top 10 picking. That's pretty tough to swallow. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's like the Colts and the Jaguars in real life is what I compared it to. I mean, you beat the Jaguars and you're in the playoffs, and then you lose to I mean, you can't. It's inexcusable, really. So, well, that concludes our four downs. But hey, we're not done yet, fellas. Let's move on to the extra point in the new, improved, get hyped up Matt 5. Matt, what's your Matt 5 about today?
Hey, it's an honor to take this over. It was always one of my favorite parts of Total Access when Tiny would wake up and actually be on the show. So it's an honor. My honorable mention, because this is my first time, I'm going to kind of. I did it last second, so my honorable mention is Paulie. He's not on my top 5, but he's had a great season, and I just need to see something out of Paulie that we just haven't seen that yet from him in the cycles that I've been here. So at number 5, I actually have a scribble here because I had Dump. I think his win versus NYT when he lost to Grams, he was humble. That's something we haven't really seen from Dump before. His tweet was very humble, giving Grams props. I think he's maybe turned a corner, but I scribbled him out. And the gentleman that I put in his place is Mr. Faz.
Wow.
Faz is my number 5. He has just been on a tear. He's outside. He lost a close game to Dan, but other than that, he destroyed Doink. He won on a doinked field goal against you, Prime, but that's no easy game to win. If you're in a position where Prime has to kick a field goal to win, you're doing really well.
Yep.
So I've got Faz there. I think if he makes the playoffs, we're right back to the Dan and Faz show. At number 4, we've talked about him a lot on this show. I've got QP. I know he's struggling. It's not just that he's struggling, but the way he's struggling is a little worrisome. But man, I can't. He's the defending champ. I can't count out that kind of a player. At number 3, I've got the Mad Bomber himself, who's rebounded off a really bad season for his standards. I think he's got an identity. I think where he's going to really struggle is, especially the AFC, he's got the inexperienced quarterback in Weber. I think he's going to have to find a new he's going to have to spread the ball around. Looking at his stats, Ricky Stevens, 76 receptions. Anthony Schwartz, 55. The next highest is Benjamin at 29. That's a steep cliff. And if I'm Prime, if I'm QP, I can look at these stats and I could take that away in the game. He's going to have to find other ways to get some other players involved. At number 2, I've got you, Prime. I think
upset city, baby. Upset city, baby.
Prime, I think you do the one thing that nobody else in the league can do, and that is play incredible defense. You play defense. I've played a lot of guys. When I come against you, I just can't quite find the keys to the castle. That game we played the first game this season, I threw for a bajillion yards, and I thought I figured you out, and then I played you last night, and it was back to square one. So you play a really good style of defense. You're second in points allowed. You're third in yards allowed. You're second in passing yards allowed. Your rushing defense is back towards the end at 25th. But if you can play defense in the playoffs and you play an efficient style of offense, it's not explosive, but you don't turn it over. That's the recipe to success. So I've got you at number 2. And then number 1, I've got Dan. I know that the whole birthday defeat of Prime over Dan, but Dan with Russell Wilson is a different animal. And I said last offseason that Dan needs to get a quarterback, and the league is in big trouble. He goes out and he gets Russell Wilson, escape artist. I think the NFC's in trouble. Whether Faz makes it or not, I think the NFC's in trouble. I don't see any way Dan doesn't come out of it. I think he wins a lot of these games convincingly. And Dan is my number 1 until I see anything different.
Man, here I was, Tiny leaving me here, and I thought I was going to be, the third wheel coming in, like back in middle school when, I got invited to movies and I was only there because you two wanted to make out in the back row. And Matt picks me, like, I don't even know what to say. I'm feeling like, this is one of the best days of my life, Matt, man. Come on. Like, why you do it? I'm going to start tearing up, man. Man, I'm going to start telling you I love you soon, Matt. Wow. Awesome.
This is an outrage. This is an outrage. And here's why. Well, let me real quick, though. I do want to say Matt made a good point about Bomber. And first of all, he said the word identity. And when I was the Chiefs, I struggled to find one until kind of right before the blip, unfortunately. And Bomber last season, he was trying to be something he wasn't with Sears or whatever the guy's name was, but he's back into that identity now. So I thought that was a good point. But when you look at, first of all, okay, Dan's a good player, I'm a good player, 1A, 1B, however you want to spin it. I would put myself at number 1 over Dan just because I'm 3-1 against the other big 4. I beat Dan. I've also swept the vaunted AFC North this season. I think my schedule was a little bit tougher, and I beat Dan, and I think we're going to finish with, the same record probably. So, but 1A, 1B, I like it, and the only time wins and losses really matter for either of us is in the playoffs, and maybe we'll get to decide this in the biggest game, and I'd be salivating at that idea.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you because I agree. I think head-to-head matters, so I wouldn't disagree with you. But in Matt's defense, because Matt is a very wise, smart, intelligent man.
He is. Yes.
He recognized in that game that we played, I was -3 in turnovers and you won by 3 points.
Well, that's a little
skewed. So you won the game, but you can't look at that game and think, oh yeah, man, I'm definitely dominant. I've got Dan figured out. You had +3 in turnovers and you won by 3 points. So that's got to make you a little nervous.
Not necessarily, and here's why. So first of all, the -3 or +3 in turnovers was skewed because the last drive of the game, you ran the ball and you didn't score on purpose. And then I got the ball again on a fumble, and I didn't have a chance to finish that drive because I killed the clock. So it was really, I mean, -2 in turnovers. I mean, what I'm saying is I could have gone up by 2 scores, and the score would have looked different with the turnover ratio, if that makes sense at all. But what I kind of pride myself on isn't necessarily like Bomber when he plays guys. He tries to blow them out no matter what. I mean, he likes to win games by 10 to 17 points. I like to just be in control of the game at this point and do what it takes to win. And sometimes that backfires. Like Faz, I was playing Faz and I felt like I had control of the game the whole time and until I missed the field goal. So, I thought you were one of the tougher guys I faced this year, especially your offense with Wilson. And I think that's a good reason why Faz put you at number 1 why Matt put you at number 1 is because with Russell Wilson, you're no longer the boring Dan that you were last season, and you have that dynamic to your offense. So I respect that, but also I don't think you're as good as me either. So I don't know.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say is it's a very clear 1-2. I mean, it's whether you put Prime first or Dan first, you guys are the bona fide 1-2. I think there is a little bit of a drop off when you get to Bomber, and I think one thing that really separates the two of you is I don't see a whole. You guys don't get overly emotional. Now, Prime, you commentate your games, but if you watch Bomber, he's got to come on, man. I mean, he's got highs and lows, and we know how petty Faz can be.
Yeah.
You guys just stay centered, and win or lose, you guys just, if you're down 14 or up 14, you're just the same person, and I think that composure is something that come playoff time really propels you guys to the top of the league.
Yeah.
I want to say one more thing, and I know we're pushing time here, but
yeah.
I think it's interesting in both our game Prime, and then your game with Faz, this new dynamic of how do you play the end of the game? Do you try to score? Do you not try to score? How much time you give left?
Yeah.
Like Faz tried the same thing I did and really didn't accomplish much because he ended up scoring on the next play. I screwed it up by not getting closer whenever I went down. I should have gotten a lot closer. But I think that's going to be a really kind of fun chess match about do we let them score? Do we not let them score? And do you score? Do you not score? How much time you give back? So I think that's something for the SML to keep looking at as some of these really good opponents go at each other. It's going to come down to really just maybe a few seconds of game management that makes the difference.
Yeah, that's what's fun about it. To me, I've always felt that I was one of the top guys and, hey, let's get a 2-for-1 before halftime, or like you said, maybe we blitz here and let the guy score. And so no, it's definitely fun. It's definitely a chess match. And Matt, that was a really good list, actually. I really don't disagree as much except for the top spot, but hey, I'm a competitor. But guys, you have anything else to say or any thoughts, comments?
No, good job, Matt. I thought you did really well. Brought a lot to the table, and man, maybe we need to be talking a little bit more because I think you're a pretty smart, intelligent guy.
Thanks, Dan. It was a pleasure to be on the show. I'm excited for playoff time. I'm excited to see what you guys do as the top seeds. I'm assuming they're going to be the top seeds in the conferences. So good luck to both of you and the SML playoffs. It's the best time of the year, and hopefully we can get some commentary on a bulk of these games.
Yes, sir. Let's go. SML Total Access is back. That was Dan. That was Matt. I'm Prime. And it's playoffs in the SML. Get lit.